So, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Welcome again to our second day and last day, sadly, of this National ELT 2025 conference. Today, we are going to start with Chase Harrison. He's from Pearson, or Pearson is sponsoring him. And we're gonna go with every accent. Oh, this is just for me. Every accent tells a story. Rethinking correction in ELT. In English language classrooms, well-intentioned correction can sometimes have unintended consequences. This presentation explores how overcorrection and rigid adherence to a single standard accent risk demotivating learners and limiting their communicative growth. Drawing on classroom experiences and current research, the presentation highlights how validating diverse accents, thank you very much for that, and communicative styles better prepares students for real-world use of English as a lingua franca, particularly in intercultural contexts where intelligibility matters more than conformity. Participants will consider practical strategies to balance correction with encouragement, nurture learner confidence, and embrace the rich variety of English that reflects today's globalized world. Now talking about our presenter, Chase Harrison, originally from Florida in the United States. He earned his bachelor's degree from St. Petersburg College and his master's from the University of West Florida, where he is currently completing an educational doctorate in instructional and performance technology. His journey in education began as a United States Peace Corps environmental conservation educator in Panama, an experience that sparked his passion for teaching and cross-cultural communication. Over the past 8 years, he has taught students from diverse backgrounds in subjects ranging from English as a foreign language to social studies, math, and reading, as well as serving as a test proctor for the United States Embassy in Colombia. Today, he teaches English language arts to 8th and 9th graders at a private school in Bogota, while completing his doctoral dissertation which focuses on improving communication between schools and their alumni communities. In addition to his classroom work, he has published in Innovations in Science Teacher Education in July 2025. His teaching and research reflect a commitment to helping students see English not only as an academic subject, but also as a global tool for connection, collaboration, and opportunity. So let's give a big round of applause for Chase.
Good morning. How's everyone doing? Are you all from Medellin? Show of hands. Who lives in Medellin? Okay, so for you, this is a normal trip. For me, I'm super excited to be with you all. I live in Bogota, so this is my first time getting to be here and have a bandeja paisa that is authentic and real. I want to thank my introducer because, wow, I sound impressive. Oh, thank you. So today I am going to be covering how every accent tells a story and how we need to reevaluate how we give corrections to our students. So as I said, I've been here in Colombia now for 7 years, and I know that a lot of times people see a foreigner and they come in and they get that kind of skeptic look about their presence and if they know what they're talking about. So I want to give a little caveat that as she said, my specialty is instructional and performance technology. I am not a linguist, but what I do is I look at problems, I identify them, and then I give a solution based on whatever resources are available to correct that issue. So today, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we innovate using the HPT model, the Human Performance Technology model, and then how I'm going to use that to show you how we can better improve correction in the classroom. But before I do that, innovation often fails. Why do you think innovations fail? You can think to yourself. If you have something you want to shout out, you can shout out. We're not a big group. Afraid of change? Okay, valid. Anybody else have an idea?
Maybe because it's not always accessible for everyone.
Accessibility. Very good. Any other thoughts?
Habits. We usually teach the way we were taught many times, and we kind of like divert to that default state.
Right. Very good. We stick to what we know. We stick to a traditional method. Very good. Well, to complement the three answers I just got, another reason why innovation fails is because the innovation is put in place to treat the symptom and not to treat the cause. When we have a cavity in our mouth, we go to the dentist. The dentist puts a filling. We've treated the symptom. But if the dentist doesn't tell the teacher, or the teacher doesn't tell the patient to brush their teeth, what's going to happen again? Another cavity. So we need to always look at how innovations can match the root cause of the issue that they are trying to address. Which brings me to my holy grail, the HPT model. Now it's big, it's scary, and I'm not going to bore you with all of the intricacies. I just wanted to give you all a foundation of how I go about doing my research and how I go about investigating solutions to problems of practice in education. So we have to identify what the ideal state is, what is the expectation. Then we look at what's happening right now, the reality. We identify the gap, and then we propose solutions that are, I believe you said, that match the resources that are available to us, and then try to find a way to keep that innovation sustainable. So, the innovation goal. What's expected of teachers and students in English language education? And again, I'll take answers. I like talking to you people. What's expected of us and what's expected of our students?
Well, I think I speak for all of us that somehow we, the professors or the teaching guild, we're thought to be a know-it-all like person. And we are thought of as Wikipedias when we are not. It doesn't matter how biased it might be, but yeah, that is one thing we are recognized for.
Valid, okay. Anybody else have a thought?
I think it is expected of teachers, so we have the capability of adapting to changes, especially when it comes to speaking about innovation schools, and expected of students that they actually get engaged by the different tools and processes that are being applied in these processes of innovation at school. So I think adaptability and engagement are two parts or two things that are expected of us.
For sure. How many of you thought you had a nice, calm day at work, and then your director calls you and goes, guess what? You have a reemplazo. You have to go run and cover somebody else's class. Adaptability is definitely a requirement. So to complement what you all said, in the English language context, we want intelligibility when they're speaking. Ideally, we want our students to achieve typically a B2 or a C1 on international language exams. Better if that international language exam comes from Pearson. Thank you. And of course, we want them to enjoy being with us. We want them to enjoy the course. We want them to be having fun, to be learning, because this obviously leads to recommendations, and education, whether you like it or not, is a business, and we have to keep the doors open with matriculation. So, what are our current barriers to innovation? And I have a little asterisk here to take this as a grain of thought because my scope is pretty narrow, but it's still true. Number one, Latin America has English proficiency challenges, and unfortunately, my querido Colombia is below global standards. And might not be the case in Colombo Americano, but typically English is not taught as a lengua franca, especially in international schools that pride themselves on using a British curriculum or a North American curriculum. We're not giving the students the perspective of English language as a globalized language. So as we can see here from the English First English Proficiency Index, which is a score from 400 to 700, we can see that the Netherlands is doing amazing. God bless them. But in Latin America, our scores are slightly lower. Argentina is taking the lead with a score of 576. But then we have Colombia down here at 489. So we gotta work on that, yeah? Another issue that I have observed in my 7 years of working at various institutions across Bogota is there seems to be a tendency to overcorrect our students. Students will receive papers back from their teachers like this, and that is a lot of information to take in. How many of you, when you were learning English, if English is not your first language, felt completely bamboozled and overwhelmed by the feedback you got from your teachers? Hands up. Oh, come on, we're friends, let's be honest. Yeah, exactly. I'll never forget when I was learning Spanish in university, I had a wonderful teacher, ironically from Argentina, and she let me talk. She let me talk and talk and talk, mistakes and everything. She never stopped me. I was like, yes, I can speak Spanish. And then she went away, and I got a replacement teacher, and she stopped me every time I made the tiniest mistake. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to learn this language anymore. So overcorrection does have a tendency to demotivate our students, which I will get into a little bit more here in a second. So what are the current gaps in Colombia between what should be our B2, C1 expectation, that they enjoy their course, and the reality, what is, of having below acceptable language scores and overcorrection? Oh, I pressed the wrong button. So where innovation gets lost, we're gonna mind the gap, as we say. How many of you actually study linguistics? Show of hands again. Only 5? Wow, 6? God bless you. I love you all so much. You are the best. But sometimes you make me so nervous. And you also make your students nervous because, again, in my anecdotal observations, linguists tend to have this assumption that everyone is as passionate about language learning as they are. And I'm right there with you. I love it too. But a majority of our students, 9 times out of 10, are just not as enthused. They're there because their parents put them there. They're there because they feel obligated for career advancement, whatever the case may be. So we have to keep that in mind. Also, teachers have a tendency to go a little authoritative and be the be-all, end-all for language learning. This is how I learned, as we said before, so you're going to learn that way too, and that might not necessarily fit the student's needs. And the most important part, which is what I'm talking about today, the information overload, where accent modification and overcorrection can be a major source of the motivation for our students. Also, from my perspective again, a lot of teachers are sometimes fearful to try something new because in Colombia we have temporary contracts. If I try something out of the ordinary, maybe they're not going to renew my contract. And so out of fear, we stick to the status quo. Out of fear, we don't deviate from what we know and how we best perform, and we stick to, what has been told always works. And then sometimes teaching doesn't reflect best practices. Ironically, here I am a foreigner talking to you all, but schools will send in foreigners who don't have a context for the classroom within Colombia, give you tips and tricks for your Colombian students that may work in Japan, they may work in Russia, but might not necessarily work here. And yes, I see heads moving, I feel you, I've been in those meetings and I'm like, what is this guy talking about? So, why is overcorrection such a problem when we're trying to innovate? You all have been learning from yesterday and today all of these really great resources to improve your didactic approaches in the classroom, how to use AI, gamification, flipped learning, thinking classroom. I think I'm missing a few, the posters in my brain, but I can't recall all of them. It stalls because overcorrection makes students self-conscious, which leads to silence. If I feel like everything that's coming out of my mouth is going to be judged, then all of a sudden, I'm quiet. Also, and this is a huge issue for me, and it hurts my heart every time I hear a parent say it to me, I want my student, I want my son, I want my daughter to sound like you. Why? I mean, I have a great voice, but why? Your accent is your identity, your accent is your culture, and for my linguists who are currently judging me for talking about accent, I know accent is a feature of dialect, but for the sake of today's presentation, let's treat accent as a separate entity, yeah? And because English is a lingua franca, it is a globalized language. There is not one correct way to say a word. There are many. I am from the US, so when I count, I go 1, 2, 3. But if you go to Ireland, which I'm not going to do that accent because that would be cultural appropriation, they say 1, 2, 3. Which one's right? Hey. That's right. So, we need to make sure that while we're innovating, while we're applying gamification, while we're applying flipped classrooms, that we also validate people's identities when they're speaking. Because accent, like I said before, represents culture and identity. Every time a student has come to me and said, no, I don't talk like I should. I know, I don't, teacher, like, stop. I understand you. If I understand you and you understand me, we have achieved the goal of communication and of speaking a language. Your voice is your power. Which is why intelligibility is so much more important than imitation. If you can sound like a native, and I hate using that word, but if you can sound like a native, great, I congratulate you. But that's not the story for everybody. What matters most important in a globalized language like English is that I can understand the words that you are speaking to me. So while we're innovating, we need to recall and always have in the back of our minds that we need to respect their identity while making perhaps 1 or 2 modifications to clarity. Because sometimes, yes, accent can be a blocker to the message being communicated correctly, but by and large, typically we can understand somebody regardless of accent. So, how do we innovate our corrective practices? Well, number one, we only correct when the error blocks the meaning. If I understood you, I'm going to let you go. If you said something and maybe you didn't use an auxiliary word or you didn't use the right prefix or suffix, but I understood your message, I'm going to let you go for the moment. Perhaps that's not the focus of the lesson I'm giving, so for the time being, we're just going to let that mistake exist in the world. If you're going to correct, you're going to delay correction until after communication ends. If you are somebody who stops your students mid-sentence, please stop. You're hurting them. We need to make sure that we let them get the full message out. Sometimes students even have the ability to auto-correct, and so your correction might be premature. And also, we need to separate, oh, that's unfortunate that I did that. It needs to separate grammar from pronunciation. This is more on the student side than our side, but students tend to conflate grammar with pronunciation in the sense that they think that if their pronunciation is incorrect, they think their grammar is incorrect, and that's often not the case. It's just you phrased the sentence correct, subject, verb, object, but perhaps the pronunciation was a little off. But wait, there's more. Use clarification requests instead of direct correction. Every day in my classroom, a student who wants to escape for 5 or 10 minutes because I'm just too much will go, "Teacher, can I recharge my bottle?" I go, "Yes, you can recharge your bottle, but you might get electrocuted." I go, "Oh, can I refill my water bottle?" Yes, yes you can. And thank you for, not mixing electricity with water. Also, something that I had a teacher from Japan, and he did the most phenomenal thing with all of his students. And I think it was to his benefit because he also had English as a second language. Repeat what was said to confirm understanding with embedded questions. So if a student says to me, for example, I need to go to the infirmary. I go, "Oh, okay. So you need to go to the infirmary. For what reason?" I confirm if the pronunciation maybe didn't hit my ear the right way, what they said, and then I get additional information to confirm that I heard it correctly. And something that I do, even as the native in the classroom, is I model communication with non-native accents. I specifically look for videos of Colombian people speaking in English. I specifically look for videos of people in China speaking in English, because again, as a global language, we need to be exposing them to more than just British and North American accents. We need to make sure that they can understand every single person who speaks in English. Super important, and I can't tell you, again, in my 7 years of being in Colombia, how many times I've walked into a classroom and the only audio and video content that students receive is British and American. We need to give them a little bit more diversity. And the most important innovation is be your student's cheerleader. I don't know the economic situations of your students or their travel experiences, but for a majority of our students that we have, you might be the only person that they speak English to. They go home, nobody at home speaks English. Their friends maybe don't want to speak in English, if they do. They need you to be the person that champions their journey in language acquisition. Multiple studies, and I have them cited below, have shown that teachers are the solitary motivator and demotivator of language acquisition. So if you are hard on them, we're not giving them what they need. They need somebody that they feel is in their corner, that is going to support them, mistakes and all. And just so you all know, because I did use some artificial intelligence to make these images, I said, make an image of a supportive teacher, and it gave me this. And then I said, that's nice, but can you make it Colombian? And it gave me that. I don't know, his hand made me feel uncomfortable, so I kept the other one. Now, developing innovations. We are all on the precipice of new technology. I'm sure you heard about this ad nauseum yesterday, but it bears repeating. AI is a great way for students to practice speaking without being judged. The robot, the computer, the whatever you want to call it. Some people are actually gendering AI now and calling it he or she. Whatever you want to refer to it as, is a great way to practice speaking in a way that is not going to be discriminate towards the students. Prior to AI, I used to just use voice to text. I'm an Android, and so I will go on my Google keyboard, I will press the microphone, and I will speak into it, and if the text generates the way I said it, then guess what? I said it correctly. So let's play with my little GPT real quick, if I can get this thing to open. Okay, where are you at? 1 second. Hola GPT, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, estoy muy bien. Gracias por preguntar. ¿Cómo estás tú?
Pues yo estoy bien, pero mira, nosotros tenemos el mismo acento, ¿no?
Sí, de hecho suena como que coincidimos bastante en el acento, así que estamos en sintonía. Es genial.
Pero ChatGPT, tengo una duda, es que mi acento es muy feo, no me gusta cómo hablo.
Bueno, yo te diría que no te preocupes por eso en absoluto. Los acentos son parte de nuestra identidad y realmente no hay acentos feos, solo diferentes. Así que ten confianza, porque tu manera de hablar es tan valiosa como cualquier otra.
Oh, muchas gracias, ChatGPT. No me importa qué dice Sarah Connor, yo creo que tú eres bueno.
Me alegra escuchar eso. Y bueno, aquí estoy para ayudarte en lo que necesites, sin importar lo que diga Sarah Connor.
Bueno, so, an example in real time, yeah? So how do we sustain these innovations? Remember, as a teacher, you are a facilitator and not a judge. This is particularly true in language learning. As I said before, you are a cheerleader for your students. You are there to help usher their journey, wherever their journey starts and wherever their journey ends with language. Again, I know. He still wants to talk. 1 second while I make. He's going a little crazy. So.
It does sound like it's going a little bit haywire.
It is going a little bit haywire. Thank you for recognizing. So, we're going to validate the voices instead of erasing them. Where when a student speaks, take a moment or two to tell them that you love the way they talk. I make this a point and a feature, especially with my underperformers, keeping in context that everyone's language journey is different. People take their own time, they have their own rhythm. But if somebody is falling behind in what the established curriculum is at my school, I take a moment to validate how they talk. I take a moment to let them know how much I appreciate having them in the classroom and that I recognize the effort they're making. And also, as I said before, a key takeaway, and to make sure that these innovations stay in place, is to prepare your students for intercultural communication. As I said before, exposing them to a variety of accents, dialects, and approaches to the language. So, again, correct less, validate more, innovate together. Because every accent is a story, and our job is to not erase it, but to help it be heard. And with that being said, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions for the presenter? We have time for questions.
Hello, good morning, and
Good morning.
thank you. I was a little late for the conference, and
Sure.
I surely apologize to everyone. But still, I am really interested towards this topic, especially when you were saying like how to like give feedback in the classroom with the student. And I noticed that sometimes, yes, we have to like skip some mistakes that they make during the speaking week because we are more focused on like identifying how the message or like the meaning behind what they're trying to say. So we sometimes omit like interrupting the student so they can flow. But still, you sometimes find students that they say like, profe, pero es que usted no le corrige a uno cuando uno está hablando. Or there was this one student that was really angry because I was just trying to listen to him, and he was like speaking, but he would make these faces like he wasn't sure if he was saying it correctly or not. And well, I was trying to help, but I was mostly listening, like trying to to actually listen. And then when he finished, he expressed with his emotion, like obviously showing that he was upset, that he was like feeling that I wasn't giving him the proper feedback on real time. But I was just trying to listen to him. But I managed the situation by just telling him like, listen, I mean, I wish I were as accurate as a computer to give this proper feedback of every word you say, but I'm not, you know? Like, but I just made him realize that I was trying to listen to what he was saying more than the way he was saying it. And I think that's a way you can manage that. But I just wanted to mention that since it's so difficult for us to be in that position that they want us to correct them.
I totally feel that, and that is something that I have experienced as well in the classroom, particularly in Columbia. Students do have a tendency to feel like if you are not giving them very upfront correction, that you're not fulfilling your obligation to them. So first of all, in all of the peer-reviewed studies that have occurred, students do typically want corrective feedback immediately following whatever task they are completing. What I'm proposing, though, is that we don't correct everything. So as an example, if my lesson is about the present perfect, then any mistakes that fall out of that scope, such as past continuous, whatever it might be, I'm not focused on those. I am only there to focus on that, because even though students are like, come on, teacher, give me all of it, you can't give it all because that's information overload. And just like how you go to a doctor, you don't necessarily know what the doctor knows. You just have to kind of, take them and trust them. To an extent, we have to also do that with our students, where they have to trust us to guide them. And so, very important at the beginning of a school year, if you work in a public or a private school, is to establish rules and procedures. I make it very clear at the beginning of my class. We have the class rules, like don't talk when the teacher's talking, all of that. But then we have procedures, which is, here's how I grade you, here is how I correct you. And so they are aware, so they have more trust in the process. If you don't establish those procedures at the beginning of the school year, then you will get a lot of questions because to them it's not clear. So those would be my two suggestions in that. Yes.
Okay, Chase, I have a question, and it is about standardized texts.
Oh gosh.
Because I know every accent is a story, but ultimately we are preparing students for taking those tests. But I think the tests don't accept that every accent is a story, or don't allow for variation of the accent, and sometimes you don't have enough points for speaking if your accent is different. So do you think that will at some point change?
Oh, so to address the question you just left off on, yes, I do think it's going to change. There was once upon a time, the DELE, Diploma de Español como Lengua Extranjera, only had Spanish accents in all of the audios, and that you were held to that standard. It wasn't until, if I'm not mistaken, and don't quote me on this, like 2015, that Instituto Cervantes began to incorporate Mexican and Chilean and other accents into the test to incorporate the broad scope of accents and dialects that are available. I do see English going that same way, but there's a great way to address both needs of our students. You have days where you're working on standardization, and then you have days when you're not working on standardization. I get 3 class hours per week with my students, and so typically we're focusing on something that's textbook oriented one day, working on something intercultural the next, and then we're doing standardization preparation on the third. So it's a nice conglomeration of various needs to give them a well-rounded education in English. Anybody else?
I actually have a question.
Sure.
It's very nice that as teachers we validate students' accents, but sometimes the other way around happens, that students want their teachers to be native. So they complain when their teacher's not a native speaker, or parents complain. You know, how can a non-native speaker be teaching English? So how can you kind of like flip that switch with students to validate the fact that their accent is okay, but also for them to validate the fact that your accent as a teacher is okay?
Oof, the $1 million question. If I had the answer to that one, I would be a rich man. Yeah, that's gonna take a lot of trial and error, and there's probably a PhD dissertation just devoted to that topic, honestly. Yeah, you got me speechless. Parents in Colombia do typically have the tendency of, if it's not a native speaker, then it's not as good, and that's very unfortunate. But yeah, how we address that is not something that I'm really well versed in. I'm so sorry.
Well, I think it can be addressed from the first part of what you said, treating English, the concept of English as a lingua franca. That in itself makes it deviate from any kind of classification, whether it's British or American. So it's educating on that concept, saying that English is a lingua franca.
No, 100% agree, but we're looking, the root of the question, I understood correctly, is how do we create a paradigm shift in perception of an entire region or an entire culture, in this case Colombia? That's a little out of my scope, and that might be something better left to like a government agency or some kind of campaign, or maybe all of us rallying together. If my native brethren who are in the room right now can help validate their non-native teachers, that would also be a tremendous help. I work with some amazing English teachers who are from Colombia, and every chance I get, the students see me talking to them in the hallways in English, and so providing moments for our non-native colleagues to shine, so to speak, could be a method, but it's just not something that I've researched myself, so I don't want to like give a definitive answer.
Hi there. Do you listen to me? Okay, that's great. So I was over here.
Where? Oh, there you are. Okay.
Yes, here I am. It's actually a pretty interesting question, the one you just made in there, and I believe there is kind of a systematic issue going on, because especially Latin American countries, we have received all of these stereotypes coming from United States, for instance, where if you worked, for example, in a, let's say, call center scenario, you're gonna get this type of clients that would just.
Where are you from?
I'm from here, from Medellin.
So you're not
I'm-
American?
Yeah, true, exactly. And they would hang up on you just because your accent doesn't match that. So addressing English teaching here in Latin America also needs to understand all of the impact that these processes of colonization we have received, not only the historical ones from Spain and stuff, but also the cultural colonizations going on, that set this role of, or these models of perfection in terms of English that require to have this very specific accent. And parents in our society, they stick with those roles most of the times. So it's a matter of letting them know that there are multiple other scenarios. And even countries that historically have spoken English, they have way different accents. For example, Australia, right? Like Aussie accent is very interesting, or New Zealand, Scotland. Go to Scotland and ask them why don't they speak as an American, and let's see what they answer. So yeah, I believe Colombia is having quite interesting programs on that. There is a platform, in case you didn't know about that, which is called Eco2. It's pretty nice. It's of the Ministry of Education, and they want to basically create material for preschool, elementary school, and second graders, high school students, where they can interact with culture precisely from Colombia. So the examples are about capybaras or the Amazon River and so on and so forth. It's pretty interesting to take a look at that, and you can also get to listen to the accents of children from Colombia speaking in English, so it's pretty cool. So these type of approaches will enable us to get rid of these, let's say, role models that are mainly related with these colonization processes, I would say.
For sure. And just to confirm, ECHO2, as in ECO, the number 2?
ECHO2. Yeah, it's
Perfect.
a program. Actually, it stands for English for Colombia 2.0. That's a platform of Colombia Aprende. Go for it. It's completely free. They have pretty interesting curriculums for those that are working on public institutions. It's completely aligned with the standards of Guide 22, if I'm not wrong, which is the one of English here in Colombia. But all right.
Nice, like that. So to add to complement what you just said there, on the foreigner side, it's also an issue. In the state of Florida, I am a licensed teacher for grades 6 to 12 in science. Science. I am a scientist. But when I go and apply for jobs in Colombia, they go, oh, gringo, entonces inglés. I go, how about science? They go, no, English. You're teaching English. Deal with it. So I love it because I also love learning languages. My journey to learn Spanish was probably the highlight of my university experience. And so it's something that I was able to adapt to. And because I am not lazy, I'm not judging my other foreigners, but I went in and I made sure that I understood linguistic approaches and how to best facilitate my lessons. Also, I did reverse engineering, where I took what my Spanish professors did with me and I just did it the opposite direction. So the colonization that has happened historically and cultural colonization, as you may call it, today is a problem across everything. I would love to be able to share the expertise that I obtained through blood, sweat, and tears, and some diarrhea with my students, but English is what Colombia has called me to do, and I'm gonna stay in Colombia, so I guess I'm an English teacher now. Sir.
Oh, sorry. Well, so picking up where he left, because actually what he just stated about contact centers ring the bell in my mind. And it's about the validation of the accent here. Turns out that back in the good old days when I was still working my ass off at a contact center.
God bless you.
Yeah, well, need to get that blessing. It was quite a, what do you call it? To put it soft, a rough path. And basically, I didn't get isolated merely because I could blend and merge with the culture. I could easily just identify accents and go with it. I mean, just flow with it, with the whole thing. And that is, I mean, validation of the accent is paramount for us. in regards of the teaching dynamics. But how to better prepare our students for the cultural possible shock, that they are getting out there only and merely because of their accent. How am I going to validate something that is going to be crushed against the pavement later on once they get to see real life?
You prepare them for the crush. And by that I mean, when I speak in Spanish, it's very evident that I'm not from Colombia. And when I get on a flota and I'm going home, because I don't have a car, I'm Transmillennial is not my friend, but there I am using it. I tell the driver of the bus where I need to stop, and he does not understand me. And so literally, my first 2 years in Colombia, I used to have a little piece of paper in my wallet, and I was like, ladrillera, yo paro en ladrillera, and they're like, huh? And that is soul crushing, because I'm like, but I speak your language. On the other side, obviously I love Colombia. That's been here for as long as I have, and why I'm going to continue to be here. But I have had interactions where I get judged and criticized about how I speak and the words I use. So with my students, because I've had those experiences myself, just like you've had those experiences too, I let them know, if somebody doesn't respect you, if somebody doesn't understand you or doesn't like the way you speak, that's their problem. And then I add a little sassiness to it, and I'm like, most people who don't understand me don't have the education that I have. And most people that don't understand you don't have the education that you have. So then I have reinforced to my student that they are smart, they are capable, and that the problem isn't them, it's the other person. And that typically, yeah, can I get an amen? So that is how we can prepare them for the crush, because the crush is always there. You're gonna meet accepting people, ignorant people, every kind of person. I can't be worried about the ignorance. I gotta look at the light, you know?
Okay, we have to end now, but thank you, Chase Harrison. Again, a round of applause. Very, very insightful presentation. Thank you very much. Just to remind everyone that at 9:30 we have our panel here. You can stay here if you like. If you need to use the bathroom or want to get a coffee, you can do so and come back. But we will be starting at 9:30 sharp. Thank you very much. Oh, and please don't forget to evaluate. Use the QRs that you see around the room. Please evaluate the session. I'm going to be checking before you leave that you have evaluated. So please do it.
Testing. Ooh, testing, testing. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. As you know, this is the panel discussion for the changing role of English teachers in an AI-enhanced classroom. Welcome to you. Welcome to the people who are online. Ooh, is this making you nervous? I'm nervous. This is like a presenter's nightmare. Okay, can you just cross your fingers a little bit just to help me out there? Okay. Let's see if this is gonna work. Come on, baby. Come on, sweetheart. Mon Dieu. Okay, I'm going to do this online. First, a very big thank you to the conference organizers. Centro Colombo Medellin are the dream team. They've done a beautiful job. And thank you to all of you who have come together, and now we're crowdsourcing all our knowledge and wisdom and sharing with each other. It's like the perfect kind of thing. And I just want to say a big bugger. Excuse my, yep, it's not working. But yay, here I am. My name is Bridget Green. I'm the English Language Fellow for Centro Colombo Americano in Medellin. And I'm here with the U.S. Embassy. So that's really good. Okay, this is what we're going to do today. I'm going to introduce the topics, and then I'm going to introduce the panelists, and then we're going to start talking. And I hope that if there's time, then you will be able to respond to some of the questions that I'll be asking. So think about that. Can I ask you to press this? Because it's not working. Bugger. Will you press here? Press. Okay, let me come over here. Sorry about this, guys. And yes. Right, so here we go. So, can you allow? Yay. There you go. Oh, quit. Fingers crossed. Okay. We are witnessing a fundamental shift in education as artificial intelligence transforms the role of English language teachers. Here is a question for you. How are you feeling about this shift? How are you responding to the transformation in your own lives, in your own context? The transformation, there we go. The transformation presents both opportunities and challenges. AI can handle routine tasks like grammar correction and vocabulary drilling, freeing teachers to focus on higher order activities like fostering creativity and providing personalized support. However, this shift also raises questions about professional identity and balance. Which feels more immediate to you now, the opportunities or the challenges of AI? Is your professional identity and or relevance feeling under threat for you? Language learning is particularly complex. It is inherently social and cultural. It's a deeply human activity that requires authentic communication and emotional intelligence. So, do you agree with this statement? While AI offers powerful tools for immediate feedback and personalized practice, the essential human elements of language education remain irreplaceable. That's very comforting for us as teachers, isn't it? Okay, I would like now to introduce our panelists. We're going to start in alphabetical order because they're all equally distinguished with Andrés Becerra. Thank you. Andrés Becerra is an English teacher with 16 years experience as a teacher, coordinator, and curriculum designer. He's a master's student in technology and innovation for education, a Pearson academic consultant for Colombia and Ecuador. He's an expert in English for business, ESP, and teacher training. He also holds diplomas in education, media, and virtual learning design. And next is Tatiana Gomez Ramirez. She is the founder of ELT Think Tank. She's an ELT consultant and teacher educator with over 20 years of experience. She's a master's candidate in pedagogical mediation for ELT, and she has led national and local projects with the Ministry of Education, British Council, and Oxford University Press. She explores AI, gamification, and digital literacies through her research with LSLP. And next is Chase Harrison, who, if you were in this room before, you just heard speak. He's an English teacher at Gimnasio Fontana in Bogota and a doctoral candidate in instructional and performance technology at the University of West Florida. His research explores alumni engagement and communication in higher education, and he has published on virtual reality use in lessons. And finally, but not least, is James Hunter. He has taught ESL or EFL for over 35 years, wow, and is the director of TESOL programs at Gonzaga University in Spokane, Washington. He has, in the USA. He has a PhD in applied linguistics from the University of Birmingham, the UK, and his research interests include second language acquisition, corpus linguistics, instructional technologies, and teacher development. Please help me to welcome them today. Nice. Next. And I am going to ask each of them a question, which I want you to think about as well. So the plan now, I'm going to ask each of the panelists one question for them to respond to in about 3 to 5 minutes, and then open it up for the other panelists to respond or add to what that panelist has said, if they want to. And I'll be stopping each of these after about 10 minutes, even if it's super cool and we want to keep going. And I'm going to be very disciplined, and you have to help me. Now I'm going to panic a little bit because I left my phone over here. Okay, and now I'm back. Here we go. And the first question is, back. The first question is for Tatiana. Tatiana, as AI handles more routine tasks, how should English teachers redefine their professional identity and value?
All right, well, first of all, hi, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for the invitation. I think these spaces where we can chat and interact and kind of exchange ideas are so important, and I think it brings value to these kinds of events, so thank you for having me. So when we talk about teacher identity or professional identity and value, I think one of the first things that we have to remember is that AI should, and that's where all the different frameworks are coming from, remain human-centered. Right? So regardless of AI and how AI's role is coming into play, as teachers, we are still agents. We are still the ones that should be guiding the process and being able to have that agency to be able to make decisions with AI and not vice versa. Right? So we are still at the core of the pedagogy. And I think UNESCO has done this through the competency framework for teachers and for students and for general use of education, where they do take a look at how, as teachers, we can start to find our identity within the AI framework. So we go through having a human-centered mindset where effectively, as teachers, we try to always figure out who we are. Recently, I was exploring yesterday with some of the teachers. One of my strengths is gamification. So as a gamer, that also influences my role as a teacher. And before, we used to have Google and everything, but when I was going to school, we would have to go to a library, go look for the book. It used to take hours, and then do the homework. Let's say that now it's helping us to organize those lower order thinking skills and to do that with our students. But when we get to those higher order thinking skills where we want our students to be creative and to actually create and do things with the language, that's where our role becomes so, so important, because obviously AI can help our students to remember, to understand, to apply, if we look at Bloom's taxonomy, but at the end of the day, we're the ones that have to guide that process. And then when they get to those higher order thinking skills, we're the ones that can improvise. We're the ones that can actually be creative. Because I think sometimes I've heard people say, oh, AI, it's so creative. It's giving me this and this. And I'm like, is AI really the creative one? Like, where is it getting this information from? Where is it getting its sources? From us. We are its source. So AI itself is not creative. We're the ones that make it creative. So I think that our professional identity as teachers, we have to remember that we are at the core of AI and not vice versa. So it's at our disposal, and we're the ones that have to figure out how to start to generate that role. And another interesting idea that I've found is that now we used to have a student-teacher relationship, whereas now we have like a triad. So it's a student, AI, teacher relationship where we can use AI in different ways. So I can use it as a teacher to plan, to brainstorm, to create activities and roles for my students. But then at the same time, we can go to the other side and say, okay, how can AI help my student directly? And then now we're starting to see that shift where even universities across the world are starting to accept AI as a cited source and say, no, AI helped me to create this paper, or I can actually cite AI as a source to be able to do this. And this has become a very interesting conversation, because then it's like, okay, my teacher's allowing me to use AI, but how am I using it? So that triad starts to put our role into, again, we passed from, you know, sage on a stage to being like those mentors and guidance, and we're just continuing down that path where now we're just guiding with a third element, which is AI, and seeing how AI can help us to actually minimize those routine tasks, things that were taking up our time, and we can now focus on what matters, I think. Lots of times, I think we all know that phrase of teacher burnout, and I think AI can help us with teacher burnout. But at the end of the day, we're the ones that have to maintain our agency, maintain that it's human-centered, recognize where our role is. And one of those things is starting to continue towards professional development. So if we have that human-centered mindset, we focus on our professional development and engaging and understanding the digital skills that we need. It could be AI today or another version of AI that we still can't imagine, you know, 5 years down the line. But if we're prepared with our digital literacy skills, we can kind of tackle each thing as it comes along. So I think our identity should be shaping AI and not vice versa. And I think we can't lose focus of what our role is as teachers. We keep being teachers. We're still the guides. We're still the ones that are setting the pace for our students. And at the end of the day, I heard a phrase the other day in one of the many conferences that are now focused on AI, but they said something along the lines of, AI will never be able to do something better than what you're best at, right? So if you are teachers at core, you're the ones that know pedagogy and methodologies and how to your students and what your students need, not AI. So that's why when AI starts to give you answers, you say, wait a minute, no, my students are this, or my students need that, or I know this, so change this for me. And I think that if we understand that we're the ones that are guiding, then of course the response is different and the interaction is different.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Does anyone want to respond or add to that?
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Good morning to everyone. Thanks a lot for the invitation. Very proud of being here. Never imagined I would share my stage with these people, so thank you. I think we can find the answer to that question in the theoretical framework and the paradigm of language teaching. I've devoted myself the last years to reading about theory, and there's a guy called Jerome Bruner who speaks about spiral learning, and also was one of the pioneers coining the concept of scaffolding. And according to scaffolding and spiral learning, so students are constantly recycling prior knowledge. And whenever we see, for example, when we read about Ausubel in the meaningful learning theory, or we read about Bandura, or many other theorists, Benjamin Bloom, they always keep in mind the first stage, in the first stage of a process, this part of constantly quoting prior knowledge. And it's the same way with artificial intelligence. Like, artificial intelligence only works, and how we can redefine our professional identity. Redefining is actually going back and see what traditionally has been spoken about teaching. And it's basically, it won't work well if we don't use artificial intelligence with theory. And theory is only provided by teachers who know about theory, can apply it in the classroom. So I think that's sort of a spiral process where we are constantly recycling. If we do so, we are constantly redefining and valuing our role as teachers. Thank you.
I see people nodding there.
Sorry. Yeah. Chase.
Hello again. For those of you that were in my presentation before, if you weren't, then shame on you. Joking. There was 2 presentations, yeah, I understand. No, just to piggyback off of you, Andres, I think right now we're in a moment where reactivity instead of proactivity with AI is taking center stage. And so you see institutions and teachers becoming punitive, so to speak, with the use of AI. And so when you're going to apply theoretical frameworks and everything, it's important to do so. It's important to get that knowledge base before you or the institution you work at even begins to think about creating an AI policy that could have repercussions for students' academic performance or their ability to maintain their presence in that school. So again, before you decide, okay, this is how I'm going to use it, this is how I'm not going to use it, it's super imperative that you do the research, you understand the frameworks, and then from there you build on it before you become punitive to your students for something that, if we're all being honest, and I know we're honest people, we all use AI. Yes? Okay.
Thank you, guys. I'm impressed by this. Wow, well done. Can somebody press go over there? Thank you. So now the question is for James Hunter. What new skills and competencies do English teachers need to develop to work effectively? Should I start again? What new skills and competencies do English teachers need to develop to work effectively with AI tools? What are the implications for teachers' professional development and continuing education?
Yeah, thanks. I'd also like to extend my thanks to Centro Colombo Americano for this and the NELT conference. This is a great opportunity to network, to meet deep thinkers on all of these topics. I want to echo what Chase just said about having the knowledge, basically sort of going to the knowledge table and understanding deeply. This is also what Andres was talking about, going back to some of our sort of foundational principles in language education. My short answer to this question, though, is if you were just at, and with apologies, Chase, if you were just at Laura and Christina's presentation, be like them, right? That's exactly what you should be doing. It's just the way that they approached this, they were drawing on not just deep knowledge of the technologies and what it can do and what it cannot do, but also deep understanding of principles of critical thinking, communal, collaborative understanding, sociocultural theory, and so on. If you were not at that session, then apologies, but get in touch with them and find out. But I'll break this down into a couple of things. I want to start with a very quick, maybe very obvious statement about what we're talking about here. The difference between sort of AI and AGI, so artificial general intelligence, which basically doesn't exist yet, but it's the thing that is the sort of looming threat over all of us. And then probably what we're talking about here, which is generative AI. So we've been using AI for years, right? It's an absolute blessing to everything we do. Speech-to-text technology is AI. Most of the internet searches that we've been doing up to this point are AI-driven. So it's not just, so we separate machine learning from generative AI. I mean, they're obviously very related. The problems of generative AI we've been exploring today, we've covered some of these and we'll continue to cover them. But I would say, as a teacher, and I lament the fact that I am approaching the end of my teaching career, when this really cool stuff starts to happen, right? This is like all the times when you think, God, if only there was a tool that could do this for me in 2 seconds so that I don't have to do it. And here it is, and I've got about 5 years of teaching left in me. So what I sort of reflecting on all of this at this point, I think what we need to do, how we need to be trained professional and how we need to be training the teachers that we're working with now and the future generations of teachers. Obviously, technological literacy. That's number one, at least. I don't want to call this number one because I think there's a number one coming up in terms of ranking, but this is the first thing that sort of comes to me. So understanding what generative AI is, what it can do, how we can use it and so on. Like Chris just said, we all use it, but how much, I'm constantly surprised by it. It's like, do you know it can do this? And it's not just sort of create an image of, sushi pizza or whatever, which is also very cool. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, oh my gosh, it can do these things too. So, for example, I'm a teacher trainer. I work with student teachers, and it's like, make your lesson plan, but don't put the SLOs at the top. Don't put the outcomes. Feed it into ChatGPT or your favorite AI and let it tell you what your learning outcomes based on this, right? So that's a really nice sort of bit of peer editing or peer scrutiny that you can do. So that's the kind of thing, technological literacy. Obviously, prompt engineering is paramount because you can't just say, write my essay for me or whatever. So it's how we should be using it, what policies we have at the institutional level. If we don't have policies at the institutional level, we, all of us, y'all, have an opportunity to be leaders in this field. You start thinking about this. You tell your colleagues. You tell your administration and so on. Quickly moving on, second one, critical thinking. This is the moment where you get to finally teach, and not just teach. I want to get away from the idea of separation between us and our students. We're all in this together. It's really important to understand that because otherwise we could really paint ourselves into a corner where we're supposed to be the experts, and I think it's time to abandon that completely. Obviously, we have expertise. Obviously, we have a role to play in our classrooms that is not the role of the students, but that's very different from saying we're the source of the knowledge, all knowledge in the classroom. Let's abandon that completely. So this is about everybody learning together. Third principle, kill it? Okay, third principle, social emotional learning, slowing down, enjoying human company, enjoying the creativity of ourselves and our colleagues, and bringing that out to the fore in our classrooms. Speaking of the classrooms, number 4, we need to flip. 100% we need to flip. We need to be doing all of that homework stuff in our classrooms and putting outside the classroom. So flipped classroom, it's been around forever, but now is the moment, I think. And then finally, understanding the value of process over product. And I think that's going to come up again and again, so I'll just stop talking now.
Okay. Does anyone want to respond or add to any of that?
So I thought that was so interesting. I'm actually going to extend one and then kind of go on a little different one. And I think I'm going to focus on that critical thinking one. I think as teachers, we have to have we have to be critical agents throughout this whole process. And one of the things that all of the frameworks kind of go back to is maintain your humanity, where we're empathetic. We can understand our students in a way that AI will never be able to understand them. We understand that, yes, I did this homework, but oh, my student's feeling sad today. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna switch out so that this works? That can't be replaced. So I think as teachers, we have to keep our humanity, but then also be very critical of what we're doing. AI always has it everywhere. Don't copy paste, be critical, read everything. We do make mistakes. So I think that if we at the end are being critical of what we're getting out of AI, it helps a lot. So I think in professional development, getting those AI digital skills and literacies is important. AI literacies as a baseline is important. But I think there's also another that could be a little bit controversial, and it's the infrastructure. So we were talking about this like when we sat down, and I was telling him, I was like, well, yes, we can do all the professional development we want, and we live in a little bubble where we're in rural cities and things, But then how does this affect students and inclusivity for those that don't have access to AI first? And when we talk about inclusivity and sustainability and ethics as well, who is AI representing? Is it representing the minorities? Is it showing the minorities in the answers that they're showing? Not necessarily, because it's taking as a whole humanity, and there's more content from, you know, like the global north than from the global south, which is a reality. So I think that's the other thing, like how do we make it sustainable, how do we make it ethical, and how do we make it inclusive in that professional development that we're learning as teachers? Because again, if we're guiding this process, we have to understand that to be able to make sure that it doesn't affect our students and that those biases don't walk into our classrooms. And then lastly, the infrastructure itself. So if we are doing professional development, but then you go back to your classroom, you say, well, I don't have what I need to be able to make this work. My school's maybe not supporting me with that policy that can help me bring this into the classroom, and they're being punitive. Or, you know, I have this, but I don't have the devices and the basic digital literacy skills in my students and my community to be able to think about using something with AI. So I think it also kind of, you know, it could be very exclusive of certain communities that don't have this baseline and don't have this infrastructure set up. So I think the response is not only in professional development. I'm not sure if you're aware, but this year Columbia came out with its official guideline for their project. It's called COMPAS 4144, if I'm not mistaken. And this is this is the plan that they have from now until 2030, where they're, I don't even know how to say the number, they're investing a whole lot of money in this. But they're focusing not only on professional development, they're also thinking of how are they going to get internet to these places? How are they going to get their teachers to be digitally literate? Because if I'm asking my teacher to use AI, but then I've managed programs all across the country, and unfortunately it's a reality. You can go to some schools and some places where teachers will struggle. How do I put the arroba? What do I do? How do I turn this on? I had teachers that didn't know how to turn on a computer. And this is a reality that we have to face. So we're trying to push everyone towards AI, but then how do we make sure everyone's part of the game first? So I think those are things to consider also along with professional development.
Yeah, just something real quick. Yeah, just 1 minute. There is a document we all should read. It was published by the UNESCO last year. I think it was 2024. It's called the AI CFT framework by the UNESCO, the Artificial Intelligence Competency Teachers Framework. And basically, when you go to that document, you read the first part of the document. It says that everything that has to do with artificial intelligence needs to keep the human and the person in the center. So basically, I deeply believe that the competencies and the skills that teachers should develop in terms of using artificial intelligence are not technological skills, but humanistic skills. So yeah, that's an answer for that. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Okay, we're going to move on to the next question. Thank you. Oh, sorry, James, you asked me to put this on. TPAC. Okay. Just go forward one more. Thank you. Okay, the next question is for Andres. How can teachers maintain their identity and expertise while embracing AI as a teaching partner?
Okay, that's a nice question. Going back to theory, lately I've been reading about Bandura a lot, and he proposes 4 stages where students, through which students go through when they are learning. He proposes a theory called social learning theory. And there are 4 stages which are attention. So on the first stage of learning, students pay attention to what you are teaching. The second stage of learning is retention, so students retain information all the time. And then the third is reproduction, so where students go ahead and they reproduce what they learn in the classroom. So this is basically what we all do after learning in the classroom. We go outside, interact with people, we use the grammar, vocabulary we learned in class and whatnot. But the fourth stage is perhaps the most important, and I think that stage is cross-cutting, is transversal to all the 3 stages, which is motivation. Yeah. So when I read this question today morning, you sent the questions, I saw them in my email, and the question goes like, how can teachers maintain their identity and expertise while teaching embracing AI? I think you can maintain your identity by motivating students, because that's actually what we care the most, like students, like being motivated in our lessons and our classes. I am personally a student with AI. I'm learning Portuguese. And even though I consider myself a very disciplined person, sometimes, like, keeping your motivation is kind of hard, because a person's emotional life is like a roller coaster. Sometimes you're on top, sometimes you're down in the dumps. So, and when I am practicing with ChatGPT my Portuguese, but I lack motivation, I don't want to use it. I don't want to work on that. So I prefer to do other things. So the way you keep yourself, keep your own identity and expertise, is by offering students no more traditional lessons, traditional classes. Students don't want to see that, but students want to, go through interesting experiences. So I think you have to provide your students with experiences in your lesson. Because if it comes to learning grammar and structures and all those things, so students can learn with this, I think, but they are looking for experiences in the classroom. So I always tell my teachers to make their own brands. It's like, how do you create your own brand? How you can differentiate from the other teachers in the way you teach, and what is that extra thing that you can offer to your students so that they say, hey, you know what? I prefer Chase's classes because they are amazing. They always make us laugh. Or I don't like Andres' classes because he's too theoretical, so we don't like that. So how you build your own brand, and building your own brand, showing yourself so that you can offer your students experiences. That's basically my answer. Thank you.
I'll complement that. So one of the research investigations that I did with my supervising professor for my doctoral dissertation was taking virtual reality, which I understand is somewhat separate from artificial intelligence, but we exposed pre-service teachers to using virtual reality to conduct their classes in that space. So when we're talking about how can the teacher maintain their identity, maybe the question is a little malformed. It's how can we also adapt our identity to the needs that today presents. So these pre-service teachers were very nervous about becoming an avatar or in a digital space and interacting with students. But lesson after lesson, they got more comfortable with it. They realized that they could engage with their students the same way they engage face-to-face, but in a virtual space. And so the identity that they thought they were losing because of technology ended up just being complemented by the technology. And there is a theory for employee training, and I cannot remember the gentleman or the lady's name who created it, but if you Google it, you'll find it. And it's thinking, storming, forming, where first you have to think about the change, then you're going to rebel against it to an extent, and some people end up dropping out of the race at that point because they're like, no, this is not going to work for me. But if you stick with it, then eventually it forms and it becomes a part of the process. And so I think it's super important that if you're in a moment with AI or VR or any technology really where you feel like it's just not hitting you and it's not becoming a part of you, that is part of the process, and that in due time it will become a part of your pedagogical practice if you let it.
So I actually have two examples, like real world examples. So one of is current events. I think that when we're discussing teacher identity, it also comes down to the institutions, right? I don't know if you guys have heard the case of Duolingo this year. So Duolingo decided to become AI-centered rather than human-centered, and they let go many of their teachers, and they are designing everything with AI, no longer having oversight with human teachers. They were able to design, I think, over 140 courses in 1 year, which would have normally taken them 12 years. They did this Obviously, it became big news, but they got huge backlash because people that were taking these courses and were taking, for example, Irish or Japanese, started to notice the flaws in what was being written and how the course was designed and how there was no more teacher agency. So I think one of the things is that the institutions also have to be the ones that drive and say, no, we can't take teachers out of the equation. They have to be there because they're the ones that have the theory, that have the knowledge. And Duolingo is a great example, and right now they got tons of backlash. People just deleted their accounts after having streaks of years simply because they felt that it was not something that was academically and pedagogically sound anymore if they were leaving this in the hands of AI. So I was like the first example. And then, I'm sorry, I'm taking notes while we're talking, because then if not, I'll forget. And the second one is the extension of identity. I think that I had an experience in Barranquilla where I live in Medellin, I'm from Medellin. I went to Barranquilla and we're doing teacher training with AI. So I sit down with one of the teachers and they start talking to their AI. Their AI responded in Barranquillero. They were literally, and then they were literally answering with the same way that the teacher was responding to them. So I think that AI starts to become that extension of us. And what I was going back on earlier in terms of biases and everything, I think the more we as a global south use AI, we start becoming part of the chapter, part of the dialect in that conversation. So I think it's also our responsibility to maintain our identity as Global South, to maintain our identity as teachers, and then bring that into AI so that AI starts including it in the conversation. So we have to put ourselves in that conversation, I think, and extend our identity.
Nice. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks. Okay, and the final question here is for Chase Harrington. Chase, how can institutions support teachers who may feel threatened by or resistant to AI integration?
Wow. First and foremost, my last name is Harrison, so if you look for me, I'm not Harrington. Oh. No, it's all right. No stress. It happens all the time, or especially in Colombia, they think my last name is my first name. So, again, harking back to the presentation that I gave prior to this panel discussion, there's a lot of tools. AI is one of those tools that are coming into play with how we develop our practice as teachers. And so it is your time to shine all of your human qualities and characteristics. You know, if a teacher is feeling threatened by AI, I would first ask that teacher what specifically about AI they feel so threatened about. Are they threatened because they feel like plagiarism is going to happen? Are they threatened because they think it's going to replace their job? What may have you? Because for every problem, there is a solution. That is how life typically works. And what I have done personally in my own practice is I have focused on how I develop relationships with my students. Right now I have 142, so that is a kind of an uphill battle to get to know all of them on a professional, deep level. But that is where your strength comes into play. AI might be able to solve an equation for them. It might be able to explain something and give them footnotes that are, you know, more succinct than what you might be able to provide. But the AI is not going to be able to sit there in the classroom and listen to the chisme between Gabriela and Maria. It's not going to be able to sit on the field while your school's football team is playing against their rival football team. AI is not going to be there to cheer on your students. And so I would say that if you're feeling threatened, then it's time to invest in the human side of the equation. And yeah, that's my succinct answer. I'm a very short responder.
Yeah, I love that sort of appeal to our humanity. I think that's a central part of what this is. I'm going to read you a quick quote. This is from an article it's 2024 article by Mishra, Oster, and Henriksen. If you haven't, there are open access articles, and they actually published 2 last year, both of which are really worth reading. They talk a lot about the TPAC framework. So if you haven't come across that, sort of technology, pedagogy, and content knowledge. But they also talk extensively in this particular article about the cultural knowledge that's behind this. And it's not cultural as in sort of differences between Colombia or Barranquilla and Medellin, but it's about how innovations in technology generally, whether that be sort of the cave paintings of Lascaux or generative AI, actually form the way we think. So it's the culture of cognition. And so the quote here is, the key to navigating this new landscape lies not in developing more advanced technologies or more stringent regulations, but in fostering a deeper understanding of ourselves. All of this is what I think good teachers, y'all, do in your classrooms anyway, right? So that part of it, should not change. I mean, I definitely think there are changes that we can make moving away from the traditional to a sort of better understanding of what learning is, a better understanding of social cultural theory, better understanding that practice and actual iteration is what's important, not perfection, not total accuracy, and so on. That will grow anyway. So that's sort of changing our teacher mindset. But that idea of bringing your whole self, I think Chase just illustrated it really, really well. Your whole self is the person who knows the students, who knows their culture, who knows the air and the water they breathe and they swim in. So I think it's just truly bringing that into, and it's a very sort of human, connective, collaborative way of proceeding. I think that's what's going to, really kind of defuse the panic about AI too.
So I think we become less resistant if we also use it to our advantage. So we used to complain a lot, and say, I wish I had time to do this and that and grade my students and give them individual feedback and personalize my class and differentiate their learning. Well, now we can without losing sleep, right? So I think that it's also kind of piggybacking off of taking advantage of this tool, which is a tool. It's like any other tool. So piggybacking off of it so that we can make time for what's important for that human relationship, but then we can also do those things that we used to dream of trying to do and couldn't do. When I used to teach at schools, it was crazy because how do you make time to actually personalize and differentiate, especially when we have students that have special needs or are on the spectrum? Like, how do I make sure that I include all of my students and I give them the best learning experience possible? And we just didn't have the time. There was not enough manpower for it. And I think now we do have the time because AI is here. So I think if we're resistant, let's start figuring out how we can make it work for us and better the students' learning experience.
Can I just add a little pinch to that? I just want to validate all of you because what Tatiana just said is true. It is a facilitator. It gives us more time. But if you are still overwhelmed by the amount of work you have to do, and if you are still like, oh my God, I have to bring work home, I get you, because while we are agilicizing certain aspects, of course, institutions are also finding ways to put more of a load on us. So I see you, I feel you, we're all still tired.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah. So, of course, I wanted to have time for you to ask questions and things, but we're coming to the end of our time. And so I'm going to give you some homework. Not quite yet. Hold on. And one more. I want to just say one concern. I really want us to keep the ethical, environmental implications front and center. We kind of just are like, AI, let's do it. Let's talk about it. Let's just keep a little niggle of doubt in the back of our mind about the effect this is going to have on the planet and on equality or global equality in general. And there should be one more. Yeah, and just in terms of the environmental impact. Amen. Let's just think about that. Okay, and then we're going to go on. And, okay, I want to a huge thank you. My goodness, weren't they great? Yes, yes. And to our audience, and to our hosts and to the support staff who have made everything possible. You guys are amazing. And one more. And so the homework is, please continue this conversation over coffee. I think we're having a coffee break now. Please continue to talk about it. Anything that they said, wander up to them, and no autographs now, but maybe you could get autographs later. A couple selfies with these guys, and one more. And I am going to ask you to take just 2 minutes to give us a little feedback, which I will then share with the panelists. If you have anything you really want to agree with or disagree with, you can put it on here and address it specifically. Just go, oh, and can everyone just repeat after me? Are you ready? We're going to say, Chase Harrison. That's right. That's right. What's his name? What's this guy's name? Harrison. Yeah, Harrison. Yes. Harrison. There we go. So please, if you could very quickly, just thank you. I appreciate all of you doing this. We appreciate the feedback. We learn from the feedback, and it's how we get better. But also I wanted to, maybe you could take a minute to respond to anything that they said and tell them why you're their best friends. And then, can I? Can I? Okay, so one of my favorite things to do at the end of every presentation is to have a selfie. So we're going to have the person with the longest arm who's going to stand up and turn around and point towards you. And I think we're going to need some, we're getting near the end. We need to jazz it up a little bit. So not just the usual selfie like, we're going to all do hands up in the air like this. And online, I want to see you doing it too. Okay, long-haired, there we go, long-armed man. There we go. Okay. He's going to stand here. We're going to stand as close as we can without falling. Do you want to stand up? You guys want to stand up? Come on, stand up, up.
Squat down. Hands in the air.
You're in it. Yay! A million selfies. Nice, yay! Okay. What's his name again? Thank you. And thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Before you leave, please,
thank you.
once again, a big round of applause to Bridget Green, our moderator, Chase Harrison, Tatiana, James, and Andres. Thank you very much for this wonderful panel. Mr. Chase Harrison, thank you. Okay, before you leave, please, we are coming to the end of our National ELT Conference. We have a break now, and then afterwards we will have our concurrent sessions individually in the different rooms. We would like the Centro Colombo Americano in Medellin, as well as the network of binational centers in Colombia, thank everyone who is attending in person or who is viewing us online. We'd like to thank you for participating actively, for networking with your peers, for sharing your ideas, and for learning, which is the most important thing. And for those of you who traveled here from other cities, we wish you safe travels. We hope you return safely home, and we hope that we can do this again and meet again to share all of our ideas. So we have a lunch break, a coffee break on the second floor, and the concurrent sessions start at 11. So thank you again. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. For those of you that are online as well, and for those of you that are in person, we have Mr. Chase Harrison here. You're not going to live that one down, I'm sorry. So we are pleased to end this National ELT Conference on a high note with this concurrent session number 4 presentation titled From Traditional to Intelligent Classrooms, Designing Learning with AI and Active Methodologies, presented by Andres Becerra, who is here thanks to the support from Pearson. Andres is an English teacher with a bachelor's degree in basic education who is currently taking a master's degree in technology and innovation for education at Santo Tomas University. He holds an important 16-year career as an English teacher, academic coordinator, and curriculum designer. Please give Andres a very warm welcome.
So thanks a lot for the introduction. Hello guys, how are you today? Good? Everything fine? Tired? Well, this being the last presentation, so I really hope you enjoy it. I really hope you find it interesting. I will share with you a lot of information about this, how to turn traditional classrooms to intelligent classrooms using AI. But more than using AI, also analyzing the theoretical paradigm of language teaching. Because as I mentioned before in the plenary, I think the best way to continue in business and fight this many worries that artificial intelligence bring to us is going back to traditional, you know, and propose new things, and then going back to traditional again, sort of in a spiral way, okay? So I like people to talk and interact in my presentations. So maybe if you're sitting alone, you should find a person who's sitting next to you so that you can interact, ask questions and all those things. Or you can do it with yourself as well, if you want to. Yeah, but the idea is that you help me out with my presentation today. Let's see if the clicker works. Okay, so let's start with this meme. Everybody likes memes. You like memes, guys? Yes? Okay, what can you tell me from that meme? What's your opinion? So if you want to speak out, you can raise your hand, and hopefully someone helps me with the mic. So we have that meme. You know the intention of that meme, right? Yeah? What's going on there? What kind of thoughts does this meme evoke in your head? Anybody? Nobody? Here we have a person.
Well,
there we have another
I've been
person.
selected as a volunteer.
Okay, that's great. That's nice. Okay.
Well, we have like 3 parts in there going on, like the students. We have the girl wearing the the blue blouse, which is like what you are supposed to be with, and then there is another lady with the red blouse that is what you are being distracted with, or what you really want to, secretly sometimes. So yeah, it's like learning and writing with integrity is what sometimes we are expecting out of students.
Yeah.
But you know, they find ChatGPT rather exciting for doing these type of situations, right?
Like
these types of writing.
Maybe more appealing. Yeah, and also this meme brings a sense of sort of cheating, or like focusing your attention in a place where you're not supposed to focus your attention. Yeah, maybe. There was another person who wanted to say something. Thank you so much.
I would say that, as it has been mentioned before, well, it tends to be more appealing for students to rely on AIs because it makes the work easier. So in this case, the first thought that came to my mind was, of course, that it is more appealing to rely on those, and that's the key word. Students tend to rely more on ChatGPT because it is more appealing for them, because it's an easy job, instead of their current relationship with learning and writing with integrity being as exciting as it just can be, finishing my homework in 5 minutes and then I can go play video games with anyone.
Do something else different, maybe more interesting for me, right? Okay, thank you. So sorry, can you hear me? Yes. So there are many ways we can fight this. But today I'm going to propose a method that as institutions we can carry out so we fight this sense of cheating and sense of not doing the things well. I think I'm going to change the mic. Give me a sec. Hello? Okay. Nice. So let's move on. And I deeply believe the way we can fight the fact that our students prefer using artificial intelligence in a non-guided way, integrating AI into holistic teaching practices. Yeah, when it comes to the word holistic, what do you understand by that word? What is holistic? Tell me synonyms of that adjective. Complete. Yeah, the whole thing. Maybe when we think about the word whole, it has something to do from its roots with the adjective holistic, yeah? So today I'm going to speak about an interesting concept, which is the systematic thinking, and I'm going to develop that concept throughout my presentation. Well, this is kind of the programs or the stages. I'm going to go through my presentation, so I'm going to mention them ever since we get there. So we have these two guys here. Do you know them? Who wants to tell me who they are? Perhaps you can raise your hand. This is not Botero. Some people told me that this was Botero, but actually realize it's very alike. But it's not Botero. Who can tell me who they are? I mean, if you tell me who they are, I'm going to give you a prize. I'm going to give you a prize that lasts a year. Is an app where you can learn more than 4 languages. This guy? Okay, yes, Vygotsky, very good. And the other person for you to win the prize? No idea? Piaget, thank you so much. So we have these two people here, Vygotsky and Piaget. Well, Vygotsky and Piaget are important because without them, we wouldn't be doing what we are doing now. Yeah, so Vygotsky and Piaget proposed in the let's say the 20th century, maybe 1960 or so, they proposed many theoretical frameworks that gave birth to something that we call constructivism. Yeah, so Piaget spoke about 4 stages of cognitive development, and he says that kids learn in a different ways adults learn. Yeah, and he divided that learning process in ages. And also Vygotsky proposed that well, the social interaction students have is important in their learning process. So when we understand what they propose, we realize that even though we use artificial intelligence, it must be human-centered all the time. Everything we said here before in the plenary, remember? So all those things gain value because of what Piaget and Vygotsky said. But it turns out that they are not the only ones, but after Piaget and Vygotsky, we started having a lot of other different theorists. For example, this guy, who's he? None of the people showing in the presentation is Pearson, okay? Yeah, so just in case you think Mr. Pearson's here, no. Who's he? Okay, multiple intelligences. Howard Gardner, thank you so much. Actually, if you were in my presentation yesterday, I showed the same picture. Second person, who's he? He's David Noonan. Actually, he has some articles and also some books that at Pearson we publish. Who's he? Well, David Noonan is important in curriculum. He's important because he helped us understand that we learn in different ways. We learn through pictures, or maybe some of us like music, and like multiple intelligences. This is Carol Duke. She speaks about something beautiful that is very famous nowadays that is called a growing mindset. You know, growing mindset? Yes, if you heard that concept? Who's he? This guy, we use him a lot. I mentioned him in the plenary. What? Benjamin Bloom, thank you so much with the levels of cognitive complexity. And he is Albert Bandura, and then we also have David Kolb with experiential learning, and Paulo Freire with the pedagogy of the oppressed. You know, you've heard of him, perhaps you've read of him. Why am I showing all these people? Because they wouldn't exist. And all the different methods and things we propose for our classes wouldn't exist if it wasn't for these two guys in the middle. It's okay? Yes? Okay. But now, besides these two guys and these many people, and they're not the only, but we have many more, besides all these people we have here, we have now a third let's say, actor in the process of learning, which is Mr. or Mrs. Artificial intelligence. Yeah, so it's the third part. So it's the third big thinker in all this process. So which means that we need to put all these together in a Venn diagram. You know what's a Venn diagram for? What's the purpose of a Venn diagram? You know this diagram is called the Venn diagram, don't you? So what is this for? Compare and contrast, maybe. What else? What happens here, for example? Yeah, finding common aspects, like what is in common between Piaget and Vygotsky, and what's in common between Piaget and artificial intelligence. But this part is the part I care the most, because it tells us, or it shows us, what's in common among the three. Okay, where they merge. All the, constructivism and afterward theories, and also artificial intelligence. So in this moment, today, we are exactly here in this part, right? So let's see what happens there. So when we focus on that part, what we find is that we find students doing something like this. So students working autonomously, students working from home, so we know these virtual programs, or when you do flip learning, so you ask students learn grammar at home and then come to the classroom to apply everything they learned. Yes, so in all these processes, they are working actively with artificial intelligence, but never underestimating and never setting apart, everything we know about theory. I'm a deep believer, that theory must be present all the times. Otherwise, we are going to lose our value as teachers. That's the way we can fight it. Are you with me? Yes? Okay. So when we put all these people around what students do in their computers with artificial intelligence and whatnot, and then we also mix all these processes with artificial intelligence solutions such as Magic School, Padlet, how do you call this? Quillbot, you know it? We have Mondly by Pearson, we have ChatGPT, Gemini, Microsoft Designer, and also we incorporate or we integrate in our programs high quality books, like Pearson's books, for example, Rise and Shine, Business Partner, English Code, Connectivity. So we have something that I call a system, And if you notice, it looks like the solar system, So we have the sun in the middle, these are perhaps the planet, and this is what's beyond, but it makes the solar system run smoothly. So remember, and something that we also mentioned in the plenary, is that absolutely all the theories that exist nowadays have the student in the middle. Even the UNESCO, through the ACFTI, the one that I also mentioned, says, and the first part in that document says, it doesn't matter what you do with AI, the student must be always in the center of everything, of your processes. So that's why we have that happy student there smiling. I just want to tell you guys, it's not just a download. I have the chance to share with many people around different countries. And I always ask teachers different questions. Like, for example, how do you feel using artificial intelligence in the classroom? Yeah, how do you feel using AI in the classroom? Can you give us an answer? Short? You like it? Is your assistant ever felt confused? Not really, never. Like, let's say, if I tell you, thank you, that's nice. Yeah, for people who are not here, because we are streaming. If I tell you, okay, you know what? We have this new tool. The school just purchased this tool. We paid a lot of money, and you have to use it. I don't know how, but you have to integrate it in your program. How do you feel? What are the questions that come to your mind if I tell you that?
How do I use it?
How do I use it? So you need to start, like, cacharrear the app to see how it works. Yeah. What else? Any other question that might come to your mind if under that context or those circumstances? Anybody? Oh, beautiful.
How's it going to help my students?
What's the purpose of this? How's it going to help my students? Did you guys, I don't know, performed needs analysis to see how it works and everything? By the way, we will speak about needs analysis. Okay. So yeah, look at this face. this is a teacher. He looks confused, right? He doesn't know what to do with that new app that the school has purchased. And a lot of people, a lot of teachers tell me this kind of sentences like, we installed the app, but it doesn't work, or it's hard to use, yeah? I mean, we installed this, we've never been trained on that, how to use it, so it's hard to use. Those are some of the things that people have told me. I don't know how to use it. I don't have time to use it. Sometimes the time is the limitation that we as teachers have, or it is not useful for the methodology we have, or this is one thing that teachers have told me a lot of times, which is I like the old way better. So teachers don't like, or they don't feel like they want to innovate in their teaching processes. Oh, look at this one. This is just giving me extra work. Yeah, this is another thing that teachers feel a lot and think a lot. Remember, integrating AI is not just downloading. Just downloading using an app doesn't mean that we are now integrating. And the thing is that many schools and institutions buy an app, or they purchase an AI solution and they give it to the teacher, and teacher is the one who needs to find out how to use it. And that is not integrating, because I deeply believe teachers must be trained and everything must be integrated in a specific way. Remember, technology does not do anything by itself. Technology depends on us for it to work, and it to work properly. And another thing, as teachers, we need to identify competencies and develop a systematic thinking, which is a concept I'm going to develop later. Okay, what is that of a systematic thinking? Okay. Just quoting what you said before, I also believe that we need to perform a needs analysis to see what my students need before I engage with an AI or a technological tool. Why? Because if I buy a tool without knowing and understanding deeply what my students need, that tool simply won't work, and it's doomed to disappear and not being used by the teachers. Very important, we need to speak about what the digital competencies and systematic thinking is, and I want to start with the AICFT by the UNESCO. I mentioned it in the plenary. And the first thing that they mention in this document is that every use I do of artificial intelligence on technology must be human-centered. Otherwise, it won't work, it won't be useful. The second, we need to have AI ethics. So I think a lot of things have been spoken about this topic before, not going to go in depth on that. Also, teachers need to know the conceptual knowledge and skills for them to use artificial intelligence. I think this part is very important because notwithstanding the fact we are using AI, we need to keep pedagogy going. Yeah, we need to be very aware of the pedagogical framework and background that we are performing when using AI. And also, as teachers, we can develop our own abilities and skills by using artificial intelligence as well. So do not use artificial intelligence only to teach, but also to teach yourself, gain knowledge, and all these things. These are the things mentioned by the UNESCO in the AICFT. If you want to know more about this, I recommend you to go and read the document. And something that I want to develop now is a systematic thinking approach, which I think if we follow a systematic approach integrating artificial intelligence, everything will work properly. So what's a systematic thinking? Systematic thinking is a structured, goal-oriented cognitive process that enables teachers to plan, implement, and evaluate tech-driven teaching strategies through logical sequencing, evidence-based decision-making, and continuous feedback loops. So these are basically the steps I need to follow if I want to integrate a technological solution in my curriculum. Yeah? So look at this. Integrating an artificial intelligence in my classes demand these 5 steps. Number 1, we need to follow a structured approach. Meaning, for example, what are the logistics? Let's suppose you are buying, I don't know, let's think about one tool. Okay, I'm going to speak about Mondly by Pearson. I think I have my phone somewhere. Do you guys know Mondly by Pearson? You know Mondly? Who knows Mondly? You can raise your hand if you know it. 1, 2 people, no more. Okay. Do you want to have access to Mondly? Yes? Okay. I'm going to tell you what Mondly is before I continue, because maybe you didn't know. So what is this guy talking about? So Monthly by Pearson is an app through which people can learn more than 40 languages. It even has Latin, for example, yes? Back in the time I was at the university, I had to study Latin the first 2 semesters. And I wish I had this tool with me, because you can learn Latin with this. Are you guys learning another language in this moment? Anybody? No? Nobody? What language are you learning? German and Japanese. Do you have do you want to have access to Monthly so you can improve your level? Okay, just come to me at the end of a presentation and I give you free access for 6 months. Would you like to? Okay, nice. You too? Oh, now a lot of people are now studying languages. What language are you studying in this moment? German? Okay, so come to me after the presentation, I give you access. Okay, so I need a volunteer, one person who wants to help me out with this. One person, give you access as well. You see, behaviorism. So Piaget and Vygotsky didn't remove everything successfully, so anybody wants to help me? You? Okay, nice. Where do you work? You work here at Colombo?
Yes, I do.
Okay, what city?
Medellin.
Medellin, okay, that's nice. So let's suppose we say something. From now on, in Medellin, Colombo Medellin has Monthly, okay? So you buy Monthly for your program. Yeah?
Okay.
Actually, we have the sales reps there, so if you want to have Monthly, so
Maria,
you can ask them. So, okay, so I tell you, now guys, you're using this tool. The first thing you have to think about is the logistics for implementation. What would you do? What kind of logistics would you have to follow to implement Monthly successfully in your curriculum? What do you think?
Well, the first thing is to install it in my cell phone and find out what it is, how it works. And then after I know how it works and what I can do with it, I would consider the best way to use it with each of my groups, depending on what my students need, what I'm teaching, whether it is available for them or not.
Good. And then what do you think about this, bridging the app with your curriculum? You think that's necessary and important?
Absolutely.
How would you do that?
Well, I guess depending on the group of students, depending on their knowledge, depending on their knowledge both in English and technology. First, I would explain how the app works and I would give them the basics. And then I would help them develop whatever it is I have created for that purpose.
Okay, and finally, how do you create the culture at Colombo that now we are using this app and is important for all students?
I would show my fellow teachers the advantages of using it and how it has worked out for my students.
Okay.
And how it has made my life easier, why not?
Okay, that's great. So that's the first step, according to the concept of systematic thinking, that we need to carry out so that we incorporate or integrate a tool successfully. The problem is that most of the institutions that buy a solution never do that. They just say, teachers, this is the new tool. Students, this is what you have to do. I don't know, you do it as you consider is best.
Figure it out.
Exactly. So in that way, the tool only lasts 1 month or 2 months, and then people get bored and they don't use it anymore. Yes, because they didn't approach the implementation in a systematic way following this first step. Okay, second step. Think about the big picture. So, for example, in this case, I need another volunteer. Please help me. Okay, we have another person. Oh, there. And then you help me with the third, okay? Yes? So second stage, you follow or always have in your mind a big picture of everything. What do you think are the long-term benefits of using, in this case, Monthly and your students?
I don't know, maybe building discipline.
Building discipline, maybe another long-term benefit of using a tool. Okay, I'm going to tell you something so that you can answer the question. Monthly is similar to Duolingo. Okay, so you know Duolingo?
I do.
Okay, I didn't want to do this because Monthly is quite better. But, okay, maybe it gives you an idea of how it works. Okay, you have Duolingo, but now you are going to use more Monthly.
181 days.
Okay, okay, that's great, nice. So, how do you test the implementation? If you are going to use Monday with your students, how do you test that implementation as a teacher?
I don't know, maybe, do I have to consider the skills?
Yeah, well, you tell me. You are the expert.
I would consider the skill I want to, like, focus on. And I would be like, today we're going to speak, so we're going to use the app, we're going to reach this goal.
How do you get your students involved in the process of using it so that, I mean, if you have your students work on that autonomously, they won't do it because we didn't have an autonomous culture.
That's
so
right.
how do you invite your students? Do you get them involved? You model it. Yeah, you model it. Social learning theory. Yes, you model.
I will focus on questions.
You focus on
like,
questions? How's
yeah,
that?
because they know how to answer,
Mhm.
but know how to make questions sometimes.
Okay. Okay, thank you so
So
much.
ask monthly personal information questions.
I like the fact that you said Mondly and not Duolingo. Okay, that's amazing. And also, if you perform all these steps well, it will take you definitely to constant improvement. So you start doing something with your students, then you test it, how it worked the first month, then you improve it, you change the process. James mentioned a concept in the plenary that is iteration. Iteration means that none of the apps or technology you want to use in your class will work perfectly the first time. So you have to be constantly evaluating, assessing how it worked before, and improving it. That's the iterative approach. Thank you. Third, there, you want to help me, right? Cause and effect relationships. How do you think using Mondly will impact the context?
I would say that, as it has been mentioned already, most of the participants will be engaged in learning new languages, which could be translated into people having more discipline and becoming a better version of themselves.
Mhm.
That's the first impact I would thought of.
If it comes to thinking about any contra in the process, what would you think about?
A lot of frustration, a lot of encounters, and a lot of people being disappointed towards themselves and the app, because there would be a lot of struggling with being constant and keep doing it.
Okay.
So I would say that that's a contrast effect.
And also, if we give them the whole responsibility of using the app without integrating it in a systematic way, so as I said before, students are not autonomous enough, there will be a moment where they will stop using it because they are not being controlled, they are not being, like their progress is not being tracked, etc., etc.
There's no stimuli for them to keep doing it, so that's one of their possible reactions.
And also the motivational aspect I spoke about before is also important. Students are not motivated with an app. We need to motivate them. Yeah? That coaching role the teacher has nowadays is also important. Okay, well, and then here we have in cause and effects, what is the reaction to the effects, how do we consolidate positive effects, and also how we correct the negative effects of the app being used in the curriculum. Thank you so much. Think about the interconnections. For example, how this tool Mondly works with the other things that are existing right now in the curriculum. It can't be apart. That is not integration. So if we are adopting a tool for us to work with our students, we need to create a bridge between that tool and everything that already exists. Yes? How the processes work together, because it's not only tools but also processes. We need to create an ecosystem, and remember this one. One solution is not supposed to exist without the other. So everything needs to coexist, because that's the concept of a systematic thinking. Our body is a system. We have different systems. What happens with my body if I remove my legs? Probably nothing happens. My body continues working, but it's not going to be the same. Yeah, what happens to my body if I remove my heart or my brain? Well, the implications are different. Yeah, so if I am adapting something to my system, it must work with everything in harmony. That's why I mentioned the concept of holistic before. Yeah, is that clear? Okay, and finally, well, long-term view. So will this tool be used permanently or long-term? Will this be an ever-evolving process of integration? How will improve? And also the concept James mentioned, and I quote before, the iterative concept that says that never the first time will be the best. I think we were talking about that, like the first time hurts, yeah? And this is also the case, yeah? Okay, nice, so let's move on. Oh, this is a teacher. Would you give her a name? How do you think she's called? Julia. Okay, this is teacher Julia. I introduce you Julia, okay? Okay, so Julia works at a school where they teach English for specific purposes. You know what is ESP? Yeah, tell me some subjects in ESP. What? Tourism, business English, what else? Well, we have an amazing book called Business Partner, if you want to know it. What else? Nobody else? What? Hospitality, people who work at hotels, yeah? Well, this is her context. Yeah, so what kind of English she teaches? English for what, like flight attendants, pilots, you know? Okay, let's say she works at Avianca. Avianca has a program where they teach English for all their workers, yeah? And then in this program, she has an audience. What's her audience? Thank you, flight attendants, pilots, and whatnot. And she also uses a book, Business Partner. She uses Business Partner with her students in that program. But now she found out this tool that's called Monly, and she thinks that this tool is interesting for her to work with her students. So what Julia does in this case is that she takes all these elements and integrates these elements in a system. So this is my system. So she has a program at the school, and she also has an audience that in this case are her students. She has a context that is English for pilots and flight attendants. And she also has a courseware or a book. She has technological support, which from now on will be monthly by Pearson. But finally, there is something that's missing in that system. What do you think is missing? So we have all these elements. Julia is not missing. She's somewhere around there. But what is she missing? The cultural aspect. The cultural aspect is in that category that's missing. It's not the category, but it's there. What else? Another idea. What's she missing? What? Oh, the audience is here, so she has the students there. What else she's missing? I mentioned it in the plenary, and I've spoken about that a lot. It starts with M. No. It starts with M and ends with D. What? Yeah, she's missing the method. So the method is missing in all this system for all these things to work. So which means that the context is nothing without a method. The book is nothing without a method. It doesn't matter what kind of book we are using. If a teacher doesn't have a method, they can have the best book ever, but if they don't know how to use it, that will be useless. Yeah? The program would be useless without a method. Actually, without a method, we couldn't do macro, meso, or micro curriculum. That wouldn't exist. And obviously, through the method, I understand how to interact with the audience. And by incorporating the AI solution in a method, it will actually work. So as Julia has established all this for her course, so she has a well-designed learning environment where all students learn meaningfully and take advantage of all tools at hand. So these are Julia's students learning with Mondly. They are in a program where they also use a book, and they are participating in some sort of activity where they are working in group. So she's applying a method, she's applying a technological tool, and following different strategies. Are you bored? Okay. That's nice because we are going to get a little theoretical here, but I hope I don't bore you guys. So, ELT methodological paradigm, and I like to say that teaching English is like an onion we can peel. Have you peeled onions? Why do you think teaching English is like an onion we can peel? And it is not because it makes you cry. Even though it can be. Yeah? What? Because we have different layers. Thank you so much. So the first layer corresponds to the methodological, just give me 1 second, the methodological paradigm within everything that we know as teaching exists. You teach this way, it belongs to the methodological paradigm. There's nothing outside that has to do with teaching. So it encompasses everything. Then we have the theoretical foundations, which are behaviorism before the 20th century, and constructivism in the 20th century and on. We haven't created yet another theoretical foundation. Why? Because, yes, we are speaking about technology, but everything is every time supported in theoretical foundation. So which means that Piaget and Vygotsky did a great job. Yeah? So now we continue. Oh, sorry. Then we have the approaches. Tell me 2 approaches. Actually, in English teaching, there are 3 approaches, no more. You can tell me the 3 approaches. Communicative approach. That's a method, that's not an approach. That's a method. Grammar translation method. Natural approach, okay, so we have 2. Communicative, natural, we're missing 1. It starts with an L. What? Oh, very close. You missed a couple of letters. Lexical approach. Okay, so we have natural, communicative, and lexical approach. And in all these 3 approaches, the next things exist. So we have methods. You mentioned some. Can you repeat yours? Grammar translation method that belongs to the lexical approach. Yeah? There was another method that was mentioned. Audiolingual method that belongs to the natural approach. Like, you know, in the books, listen and repeat. Number 1. Yeah, I have top-notch book voice. That is the lexical approach. Yeah? Actually, I recorded the voices. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah, so those are approaches. We have more. And then with the approaches come the method. For example, the direct method, total physical response. Another method, let me think of it, task-based learning, project-based learning. Those are methods that belong to approaches. And then finally, we have practices, which is how we carry out these methods and the techniques. For example, active learning, that is a method, has a technique that's called jigsaw, and I'm going to speak about that technique. Do you remember our teacher's name? Julia. Okay, why did you call her Julia? Was the first name that came to your mind? Okay, nice, Julia. It's a nice name, though. So these are Julia's students. Where are they studying? Where are they studying? Where does Julia work? Avianca, thank you so much. She has a specific program, yes? Okay, so they are studying, and this is what is going on in Julia's minds in this moment. So she says, okay, I am a teacher, thus I belong to the methodological paradigm. There's nothing I can do. I belong to there. And then I'm sort of constructivist, and I like the communicative approach, not the natural, not the lexical, but the communicative one. And from communicative approach, I'm using a method that's called active learning, coined by John Dewey. Yeah. And then from active learning, I'm going to use a technique that's called jigsaw. Have you ever used this technique in your classroom? Jigsaw technique? Okay. What's jigsaw technique? Look at this. Well, she uses business partner Mondly, she works in a context, and she has an audience. So now, look at this. This is Mondly. This is the desktop version of Mondly. Actually, Mondly was designed for it to look better on a phone, but you can use it on your computer as well. And then Julia realizes that there is a specific course for flight attendants on Mondly. So she says, wow, I love this tool. I can integrate it systematically with my students, right? So then she comes and she says, okay, I'm going to use this lesson with my students, and I'm going to focus on lesson 1, 2, and 3 from within 26 lessons that she has in the app. So now she organizes the students in 3 groups. Student 1, 2, 3, Group A, 4, 5, and 6, Group B, and 7, 8, and 9, Group C. Group A is working lesson 1, Group B is working lesson 2, Group C is working lesson 3. Have you ever done that with maybe readings or speaking activities and whatnot? We do that. Then what's the jigsaw technique? 10 minutes pass, and student number 2 is moved to group B, student number 5 is moved to group C, and student number 8 is moved to group A. So they start interacting. Oh, I forgot mentioning something. Before, these students work on each lesson on monthly. Then 10 minutes pass, and the teacher says, okay guys, switch. But only one student from each group will switch. Yeah. Then in this part, what would you do? What would you do in the second stage? In the first stage, they were working with the app. Now, in the second stage, what would you do? Tell me some ideas. Okay, maybe the student who switched is going to share with the others the answers, yeah, they found in the app. For that second stage or that second step, do they need the app? Maybe yes, maybe no, so it depends on the teacher, right? Now, 10 minutes pass, so Julia says, okay guys, now switch. So other group of students switch, and then she does something different. Maybe they have to write something with the vocabulary they learned with monthly, you know, or they have to prepare a presentation. I don't know, guys, the sky's the limit. You can propose a lot of things. But look, the concepts they are working upon started in a technological tool. It started in an AI tool with a device, but the device is not everything, you know? It's being incorporated in a system that Julia proposes for her class. And then finally, what do you think will happen with students who haven't switched? What do you propose, guys? Who wants to help Julia? Nobody? What would you do with the students who haven't switched? Somebody help me, please. Okay, thank you. A new group? I mean, a new group composed by these 3 students. And then what will you have them do? What? To talk about each lesson. So maybe these 3 students are now savvy or experts in certain topic, in all the 3 topics, and then they will make up a group, and they will go ahead and they will present in front of the students what they learned in these 3 stages. So look at this. Every started in a tool. Every started with Mondly. But Mondly, even though it is an artificial intelligence and it does a lot of amazing things, it's not the whole thing. Actually, it's just one of the many tools that I can use to have my students speak, interact, get new knowledge, improve, etc., etc. But students must be the center all the time. This was an example with Jigsaw, which comes from active learning, but we have a lot methods more through which we can use artificial intelligence or tools. For example, how would we use Mondly to work on project-based learning in the classroom? How would we use it from the CLT perspective, or TBL, or experiential learning, flip learning, CLIL, STEAM, social-emotional learning, and these are not the only ones. We have many more. Do you recognize any of those? Yes, a lot. Yesterday in my presentation, we spoke about active learning and also flip learning. We spoke about CLIL, the ones who were in my presentation yesterday. That was the topic, the main topic. So with this I mean, we can use any artificial intelligence in any of these methods. And actually, it's not just that we can, but we must. Okay? Because if we use it apart, that won't be meaningful enough. At Pearson, we have a tool I wanted to share with you guys today that is called the Smart Lesson Generator. This is another AI tool. I'm going to share my account with you, okay? So that you go there, explore it, use it with your students, and you feel like you want to have it for you guys, for your school. Sales reps are there, okay? They're always there with us. Smart Lesson Generator. What's the Smart Lesson Generator? It's a tool that allows us to create different types of activities. I think I have 1 minute to take you there and explore with you the tool. Just give me one sec. So to use it, you have to come to Pearson English Portal, which is the official website from Pearson. And then you are going to log in with an account. I'm going to share with you my account so that you can go there and explore it by yourselves. You introduce your password, and then it takes you to the main dashboard where you find all the books and everything, right? And there you will have a tool that's called Smart Lesson Generator, this one here. If we go there, this artificial intelligence solution allows us to create whatever we want in 6 categories. So we can create lesson hooks. What's a lesson hook? What's a lesson hook? As a warm-up, it's an activity for us to, break the ice and hook our students with the lesson. We can create vocabulary presentations, grammar presentations, communication starters, reading comprehension activities, writing activities, or an exit ticket, which is an assessment solution. So we come here and let's say I want to create a reading comprehension activity. So I want to create one of these. I click on it and I click on next step. And then I can go and, for example, I can select Pearson-based, and I can select one of the many titles by Pearson. And I can go and check, the level. So let's say I want to work with book A2, and I can also select from A2 the unit, and then I can click on Generate Activity, and what the AI does is that it takes all the elements within the book, and it creates the grammar presentation or the vocabulary activity or the reading activity with that specific page of a book. So it means that now your book has 100 pages, but for every single page, you have 1,000 more resources with the artificial intelligence. So you have the same book 1,000 times. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, so you come here, look, me and you, unit opener, lesson speak out, A2, unit 1, then changes in my life, it created a text, and then I go there, and well, it is still working, and then it shows me multiple choice questions. This is the activity that I selected. With the vocabulary or the listening activity, whatever, yeah? So I recommend you to come and check it out. It has more features, but I can go in depth with this because time is not enough. But if you want to access, if you want to enter it and explore it, you can take a picture. This is my username and my password. You can just go there, explore the tool. If you want to have access to that tool, you can contact us, and we can give you more information. Okay. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Andres. Andres is always there, supporting. How you get there? Yeah, that's important, obviously. Just go to Google, and on Google, you just type, guys, go to Google, and on Google you type Pearson English Portal. And the first option that Google shows, that's where you go there and you put my username and password. Yeah. Where is it? Here it is. Okay, just to wrap it up, let's call it a day. Yeah. Just give me one sec. Hope you took a picture. I address the fact that, and I acknowledge that AI tools are not only by Pearson, but there are many that we can use. These are some of the ones I like the most. I love Magic School. Oh, I forgot the name of this, but this is for you to make pictures. Hello History, you can talk with Da Vinci, you can have a chat with them. Vid, that is for creating videos, and of course Pearson Suite Artificial Intelligence Solutions. I invite you to scan this code to find more than 40 AI tools for you to work in the classroom. I like to share this kind of solutions with my teachers every time I have a chance to talk to them. Oh, that's Ideogram, that's the name of it. Okay. Nice. And let's move on. This is just a call to actions, guys, so I can finish. Just remember, downloading useful tools is important to use with your students. Also remember to analyze how the tools perform a needs analysis for you to understand what your students need, want, and lack, plan systematically, bridge tech and methodology, and also assess how meaningful was the bridge and assess the system, reconfigure and master it, you know, the iterative method. I want you to help me out reading the following questions out loud, okay? So all the time, yeah. So everybody, can you help me read this question? Number 1, why teaching? Number 2, what to teach? Number 3, very good. Number 4, and number 5. These are 5 questions that, according to Ortiz, are constantly in our minds as teachers. But now I want to add something to these 5 questions, and with this I say goodbye, so which is this, okay? So why teaching with AI, what to teach with AI, how to teach with AI, when to teach with AI, and how and when to assess with AI. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you to everyone for joining us with Andres' presentation. We hope you have a lovely afternoon, and thank you for coming to the ELT. You're welcome.